You have to actually physically close this. This is not good for vlogging. Yo, hey, what's happening, everybody? Today we're going to be taking a look at the Canon R50V, and it is cold, kind of foggy day today, so I might not be outside for a very long period of time, but I wanted to share with you guys because this is a very exciting compact design. It is the first camera that I've had which has been pocketable, which means you see I've got these really nice pockets in this jacket right here, and it is the first camera that I can actually fit into the pocket. For full disclaimer, I am not getting sponsored for showing you guys this video. Nobody's giving me any money. What you're seeing today is going to be my honest review. This is the Canon R50V together with the 28mm f2.8 pancake lens, smallest RF lens. This is not a kit lens, but you can purchase it for approximately $300. I love this lens and I love this particular setup for photography purposes and for the overall convenience of it being like super small. But for video purposes, maybe this isn't the best lens due to the fact that it is missing in-lens image stabilization, so you have no optical IS, coupled with the fact that this particular camera does not have IBIS. The only stabilization that you're going to be getting with this particular setup is digital stabilization, which isn't horrible. And if you're using videos, what I would probably say is that with digital stabilization, the only thing that you can do for the most part is just try to be able to hold this camera steady and just do steady stationary videos, which in a lot of situations will work. Now, this does not use your full frame. It uses the APS-C, so cropped frame format here. But you can use full frame lenses. It's just that you will have to take into consideration that, for example, this 28mm that we see here is actually effectively about 42mm or something like that. That's one thing I didn't think about when I purchased this. I thought, all my Canon lenses are going to be all different. As you can see, definitely for vlogging situations, this would be a little too tight unless you really just want this is not good for vlogging. You would definitely want to probably invest into some kind of a lens with a little bit of a wider reach. It's a little too tight, so currently I'm using the digital image stabilization that's provided by the camera. Oh, so the crop mode is actually, it will crop and make it even more closer, but this is shooting at 60. So now I did purchase another lens. This was a steal. I bought it from MVP for $60 with shipping. It's a kit lens. It is incredibly light. Now this is variable aperture, so we're talking about 4.5 to 6.3, but it is with image stabilization, and so that kind of makes it a really nice super duper light lens for your already light and compact camera. And you could still stash this in a purse or put it in, probably not your pocket at this point. When you have it fully in, it's sort of in its locked position, so it does occupy this space, but when you have it at a working position, it does have to extend from here to here. Here's an example of the 14 to 45mm at the 29 frames per second oversampled 4K. There's two different ways that you can record. It's 29.9 frames per second, which is essentially 30, and then 23 or 24 frames per second, so that 24p type of thing. If you want to shoot at 60, which in this particular camera you're gonna probably do that for if you want to shoot fast scenes, you're gonna use that little bit of a cropped mode. This is at extended hand using that little tripod that I've been using. It's a little too cropped in, but not terrible. I am going to be getting that Canon small 10 to 18, I think, and I'd be more than happy to make a subsequent video showing how that works. But yeah, this crop mode works probably in situations where you're really just wanting to get like slowed down footage. For most other situations, I think it's best to just go ahead and use the regular. This camera is going to be shooting in Canon Lock C, and this would be kind of the walking test. Like I said before, if you're following somebody, you know, you probably want to kind of be a little bit gentler on your knees so that the camera footage doesn't look too bad. There you go. This particular lens would allow you to be able to kind of move around a little bit more in your videos if that's what you're looking to do. I put in a clear UV filter by B&W. It's just a kind of a scratch proof solution for me, because a lot of times I don't really put caps on these things, and so much rather just scratch up a $34 filter than to scratch up the lens. I'm gonna briefly talk to you guys about some of the things that I really like about this camera, some of the things that I don't like. Let's just get the things that I don't like out of the way real quick. A lot of people will really like the overall compact factor, but the only thing that's the downside to this particular camera is that this little grip here is a little bit too small for me. Even though they've used this sort of a rubbery kind of a material right over here to kind of help with the grip, my fingers aren't super big, they're not super small either, and I feel like when I'm holding the camera like this, I almost feel like there should have been a little bit more something to grip onto here on the side. Now, Small Rig actually sells, I think, for $30. They've got this little plate that goes down over here with the arc plate for you to use it on some of the tripods, but it has this additional thing where essentially it adds a little bit more space here. And I think that might be effectively a solution for anybody with hands that are bigger than child's hands. It's not it's not a deal breaker here, and a lot of times it's just a slightly different way of holding the camera, to where most of the weight actually goes on my left hand like this, and I take out the LCD screen like this, and I'm just basically stabilizing the camera with the other hand. I'm not actually forcibly like holding it in place. But a lot of my cameras that I'm like, for example, the one that I'm shooting with, which is the R6 Mark III, I like to just be able to hold it like this as I'm going somewhere. So if I'm traveling, this is definitely not something that I will be doing with this, because it feels like more of a kind of holding it like this, and I'm getting a strap for this camera. On the back side, you've got the little thing here, right over here. It kind of helps to counteract that hold, but it also very tiny, so you don't really get a lot of grip, okay? Also, one thing I didn't want to mention is that this particular lens, this pertains to the lens itself, is that when it does turn on, like right now, it's fully inside, but when you turn on the camera, it does kind of go out, as you can see, so that front element does move. It's not inside the lens. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to push against this when it you see, it really doesn't like when you push up against this. I realized this fairly quickly, because when I had the camera on and I put it like this on my couch, I started making all this weird noise. So that was like the motor was really upset, and I was like, oh crap, so yeah. If you want to put this in your purse or in your pocket, so you got to make sure you turn it off. So when you do turn it off, it'll go to its lowest point, and then that way it's going to be fully in there. It does use these smaller batteries, which go into this battery compartment here, and it sits comfortably next to your SD card. One thing that I noticed is that when you close this thing, that it doesn't actually kind of automatically close, so you have to actually physically close this little knob, which isn't a big deal. Another downside to some people, maybe to others, it's actually a plus side. There is no viewfinder on this, so there's no electronic or optical viewfinder, so you can't really physically do this. Some people might be swayed away from this camera because of that. I'm actually happy. I haven't used a viewfinder in a camera for a long time. The only times that I actually use a viewfinder is if I'm standing in a big crowd of people and I'm like standing like this, trying to take video of my family, and then I'll have just a lot of people like staring at me, so I'll just do this and be like, smile for the camera, and I'm actually still recording video, so then people will kind of turn around and do their own thing. You're just getting this camera for photographs, and you're looking to get a specific angle. You might be up close to the ground like this, you might be getting it like really low and stuff. It's just, it's more convenient to be able to have the screen as opposed to like laying down low on the ground and trying to getting in there. So for me, not having a viewfinder is actually a good thing, because it makes this camera more compact. Unlike some of the more larger cameras though, it is lacking some of the wheels. So you have that back wheel here that allows you to adjust some of the settings and things like that, but it does lack that front wheel that's seen on some of the other cameras. The backside too, there's just smaller amount of buttons, but you can customize a lot of these buttons, which is really cool. I'll show you what I did with that. I'm still customizing things to where it's going to be the way that I want them to be. Now, the good things, okay. Let's start with the very first thing, the price. This thing sells for about $569. Last time I checked, that's how much I got it brand new. That is a steal. That's a really budget friendly. So as far as the pricing, this puts it in category with some of the action cameras. I mean, like a couple of years back when the GoPro 10 came out, that was how much it was. It was $499. So $500 for a camera from Canon with an interchangeable lens design is definitely, you know, really quite budget friendly. It fits into my pocket. It just kind of falls in there. And although it does look like you're trying to stash something, like a little bit kind of bulging, it fits. It fits well, and I can close my jacket and I can take this places, and it doesn't interfere with my ability to be comfortable. I can sit somewhere or I can walk, and it's there. It's almost like to the point where it fits well enough for you to be able to forget it. That's the thing with a lot of situations, is that I don't take the big camera with me because a lot of times it's either too bulky, too big, or I have to have a backpack or something to carry it in. So in situations where I might be doing everyday type of things, I'm not going to be taking the big camera. What I will take is my phone, because I always have it with me. But now with this small design, I can actually be able to bring this camera to places where I would otherwise just not even take a camera. And as Kai for once said, the best camera is the one that you have with you. The tripod thread right over here on the bottom, right next to the battery right over here, we have the SD card slot. So in some of the bigger Canon cameras, you have that separate door on the side that it opens up, and then you either have 1 or 2 cards. In this case, that card is right next to the battery. Instead of having the little flap on the side though, they did put in an extra thread right over here for anybody that's looking to film vertically. So if you're using this camera to do like TikTok or Instagram or maybe even YouTube shorts or something like that, you know, that's kind of really cool that they provided 2 threads. The second thing is, back in the day when we used to have some of the older cameras, some of the ways that we were able to connect these to use as webcam was a little bit difficult, because you had to get the Canon, or for example, I was using the Lumix S5 camera a couple of years back, and I wanted to use it as a webcam, and I had to download all these different tethering softwares on my computer, and even then afterwards only certain programs were able to recognize it as a webcam. In this particular instance, it is being recognized as a webcam because the program, the tethering software, is already built into this camera, makes it a lot simpler, just a lot more convenient. It's very small, and it looks very much so kind of inconspicuous, so it's not scary if you're out going to an event, such as, for example, school. You're going with your kids and you just want to grab a couple of shots because they have their end of the year classroom party or something. This really does more or less look like a little tiny point and shoot. You're taking this out, you're like, oh, you know, I'm here to take pictures of my grandson, you know. How do you use this thing? But to be honest with you, when you're standing like this, for example, this, and especially if you're clicking while you're holding the camera, this doesn't look like you're actually taking video or pictures of anything or anybody. This looks like you're adjusting something. So to somebody that he's not familiar out there with how the cameras are these days, it's this particular arrangement or this particular arrangement that most people recognize as he's either filming or he's doing photography. This, like this, is definitely more of like, oh, he's maybe doing some adjustments or something like that. So I like it. It's less conspicuous. Another reason why a lot of times I use an articulating screen like this, which is a 180-degree articulating screen, by the way, which is friendly for vlogging or anything like that, is that I can get on kids level. So a lot of times I'll be doing a video or taking photographs and my camera will be down at my waist level or even a little bit lower. My kids are kind of young, and so too many people that use their phones, for example, so they got their phones, and this is what I see them doing. It's either they take pictures like this from their level, and so you see a lot of a lot of tops of the heads, or they're taking pictures like this, you know, what they're not doing is they're not getting down like this simply because it's harder to see the screen. So they would have to have the ability to see the screen and take the picture, so they don't do it like this, which is what they should do, because you need to, especially with kids and stuff, you need to be able to take photographs of them at a more perpendicular level, whereas, you know, kind of like wherever their head is, you know. That makes it really nice to be able to have an articulating screen. You just kind of point it down like this, and you get all the perfect shots that you can get. So as far as the photography part of this camera, it's really, really good. I'm going to tell you straightforward that I was pleasantly surprised that this camera is just as snappy, in my opinion, as some of those Sony cameras, even though Sony is known to be quick and to be able to get those shots that you're looking. The focus here is extremely sticky, so what that means is basically it's going to stick to the subject how you want them, and even though the subject might be moving through the frame, or you're moving through the space to kind of get next to the subject, you're going to have things in focus. So here's an example. I'm just going to go ahead, and what I usually do is I just kind of highlight it right here, press the button, and I'm going to kind of walk towards the camera, and we're just going to take some photos. Notice how quickly it works. You've got the similar type of menu that we've seen with the other Canon cameras. It's a really nice, great menu. And one of the things is, what I like about this particular design is that it's got a dedicated menu that is specifically for the camera. And then when you switch right here to the cinema mode, when you're wanting to do video, it's got a separate menu for that. So once you're finished adjusting the camera settings, then you're good to go. I've got the Canon R6 Mark III over here with the giant setup. I've got the small rig cage around it. You might have seen my video on the small rig cage comparison, but it is a big camera, and sometimes I can even make it bigger by putting a large surround sound microphone, which I tend to do quite a lot when I'm out filming my kids and whatnot. And it looks very conspicuous. So what's going to happen is, maybe you're going to be really focused while you're actually doing the video, but once you start to edit the video, you'll realize later on that you got a lot of people turning their heads and like looking like, what is going on? Why is there a filming crew here? Is this some kind of a important event? People will give you the dirty look. But then again, people were still giving me the dirty look when I was using this, the DJI Action 5. The other day, my family and I, we went to a Great Wolf Lodge, and I was trying to get some footage of my kids here. I was still like, when I was doing the video editing, I was always seeing like people were like, and it's bizarre, you know, it's just bizarre, because this, standing with your phone and filming for 5 hours, nobody bets an eye. And that's kind of just the world we live in. It's whatever people are accustomed to. People are more accustomed to seeing a point and shoot, kind of like the Sony Cybershot or whatever it is. The small slick design, when you're taking something like this out, people are not going to be like, is this news anchor? What's going on here? Because I'm going to tell you, I've been in those situations. I used to have a cinema camera when my oldest daughter was just like 1 year old. And I would take it to places like Target and Barnes & Noble, this giant cinema Canon C100 Mark I with an external mic, which was at that time Zoom H5. I mean, you could just imagine how large my setup was. It was like this big. I didn't bat an eye at the time, but I'm sure I got a lot of looks. So for a lot of people out there, even if you have a large camera, kind of like my Canon R6, you're not likely to take it to certain events like birthday parties and stuff like that. You're just not likely to want to bring it, just because people are going to give you the dirty look. So with that being said, this might be a great option for anybody that's like, hey, you know what? I tend to go to a lot of school events. My kids are elementary or middle school or high school age or whatever, and I always go to their little events, their birthday parties and whatnot, and it'd be nice if I had something like a small camera in my purse so that I can just take it out and get some pictures. Now, having said that, a lot of people just rely on their phone, and that's cool. New phones get good pictures, you know, they get good quality overall. It's not terrible, but let me tell you, this just works better. I've always been the type of person that would choose cameras over phones for taking videos or for taking pictures, and just being able to have this sort of a nice sticky, or if we want to go to drive mode, that works too, you know. I mean, what is that? And it's still great, you know. Look at this. So we're going to just go ahead and I'm going to do the full drive mode, and I'm going to walk towards the camera. That is incredible. Of course, I don't do that drive mode because I just don't have situations where I need that. This is a 24 megapixel camera, so that's pretty good. Being able to shoot 4K oversampled at 30 frames per second. So it's oversampled from 6K. It is shooting in long GOP, so it's going to be shooting every third frame, but that's how these Canon cameras have been for a very long time. You are going to be able to shoot in different color formats, including being able to shoot in C-Lock 3. But then I got this little button, I changed it right next to it. So on the top, I can press this and it will make it silent. So let's say that you're somewhere at a school, at a party or something like that, and you just don't want to draw attention to yourself. You can make this completely silent and get as many shots as you want to get, and then not have anybody turn heads or anything. That's the beauty of having a mirrorless camera anyways. You know, with a old school DSLR, there was always that little shutter, and you would always get people to look your way. And very inconspicuous, very small, very tiny design, looks cool. Definitely budget friendly for anybody that's looking to get into that interchangeable lens ecosystem from Canon. Thanks for watching, as always. Be sure to hit that like, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about this camera, what works for you, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.